Hello, welcome to Beach View, our podcast with Bryce and Jen. We talk about all sorts of things and cool stuff all the time.
Nice intro there.
Thank you. I worked on it, and I'm just kidding. But
today we're going to be talking about salad fingers.
Yeah, salad fingers. I felt like, did we mention this in another podcast, or no? It's just something I've heard about from you before.
I might have.
Okay. Well,
so
in our tradition of you introducing me to new and often weird videos,
yes.
I feel like this fit the cue.
Well, new to you, they're often quite old.
Right, quite old. You're right. Yes. I looked this one up. I think it was in 2004 it started.
Yes, it was released in... Yes, it's a series. It's Flash Animations, made by David Firth, who... this is all I know him for, but apparently it's his most popular thing. And it started in 2004. The first several episodes were released in 2004. And then he started releasing on, like, a yearly schedule... thereabouts, and then on like a every 3-year schedule, and it's still ongoing actually.
Oh,
when
gosh.
I looked up to watch him again for this, there was one released a few weeks ago, so
What? How many are there?
12 or 13.
Oh my
when
goodness.
I watched through the whole series, like obviously I was aware of it, when I finally sat down to watch the series, it was only up to 10, so I have not seen the whole thing, but
new and exciting episodes for you left to watch.
I don't know if I'll watch them.
Yeah. I do remember you showing me, I think the first one.
I don't think I did.
No, I think it was like years ago though. Like, no? That wasn't somebody. It had to be you.
Probably wasn't me. I don't think it was me, because I was aware of Salad Fingers. I never watched Salad Fingers till, like, I don't remember the exact year, but it was only a few years ago.
Well, maybe it was, I thought you had shown me the first one when I was up there one time visiting, but I'm thinking it was like a long time ago. I don't know who else would show me that. I don't know. Either way,
it did go viral back in the day.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I just, I don't know who else would have shown me that, but...
I mean, Travis was aware of it.
Yeah, maybe he showed me that. You never know.
So.
Yeah. I mean, usually I get my exotic or esoteric content from you. No, I remember us talking about it at some point, and maybe it was me and Travis, or anyway, the whole point is I think I remember seeing at least part of the first one, or maybe I just remember you saying like funny stuff about spoons. I don't know. I'm picturing you in my memory of this. So I was slightly familiar, I will say.
Yeah, the Rusty Spoon line was quite popular for a little bit. So I don't think I said it, but I could just be misremembering.
Well, either way. Somebody mentioned spoons to me in some weird way at some point. So that's vague enough, right? But basically, I was, like I said, just slightly familiar with it. I didn't know what it was all about. I knew it was like, I will say, a weird little video of some sort. I had no idea it spanned for that many episodes, though. I thought it was just like a couple of episodes. So we watched the first 3.
Mm-hmm.
And for this podcast so that we can, talk about it, respond to it, So, do you want to kind of like get into like a synopsis or the background of it?
Yeah, sure. So, well, I mean, I don't know much about the background other than like it's so Salad Fingers is a series about a weird little green guy who I think's named Salad Fingers, although like the title comes from a thing he says in the first episode where he refers to his salad fingers. He's got these, like, long, spindly fingers that he likes to rub things with.
Yeah.
And he's a weird guy who does weird things in a kind of desolate world. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of, like, creepy And it's got comedic moments. It's definitely very odd sense of humor, though. And yeah, it's weird and creepy and kind of gross.
Yes, you're hitting all the high points.
I mean, it's definitely like, this was a thing at the time online, like flash animations that were similar in style to this, and like there were animated shows prior to this, that were aired on TV that went for the sort of like gross thing that this went for, but
like, I want to know, like, I'm trying to think back to the early 2000s, like, what was going on in the world that made people do this a lot then? There's like internet. A trend. The internet. But like, what? Like, what? I don't know. I'm always going like, what prompts you to create this? Like,
I mean, this is the kind of thing that spreads easily. Like, it's the kind of thing that people, like, you have to see this weird thing,
Yes. Yeah. I guess that's the whole goal of it, is to, like, have it spread and be this, like, off-the-wall, like, very strange, like, sense of humor kind of thing, and everybody sees it,
Yeah. So I guess I'll get into a synopsis of the individual episodes.
Yeah, please walk us through the first one.
So, episode 1, we open with Salad Fingers, who's rubbing a rusty spoon, and he says he likes to rub rusty spoons with his salad fingers.
So
He's just
weird.
sitting there doing that, and then he goes off to find some other stuff, walks in a weird house, and meets a guy, a little yellow guy, who doesn't speak English.
Just makes noises.
Kind of makes noises, yeah. And he's asking him about, like, do you have any spoons? And then he's responding to him, and then he walks in, and then he's like, oh, well, I guess if you don't have any spoons, I have to go, but not before I rub this rusty kettle. And that's, like, the whole thing.
It was so odd. I thought it was it was the strangest first episode, because, first of all, you have these, like, oddly, animated things, or creatures, I guess. And like you said, it's kind of like this desolate world, like, maybe like after a nuclear fallout kind of thing, like, it's just everything
looks kind of desolate,
real...
post-apocalyptic.
Yes, exactly. And you have these, like, very strange looking, like, animated creatures, and you start off right away, the guy is green, and the other little dude is yellow. So it's already like this kind of surrealism thing, and it's, and he's like, I like to touch rusty spoons. And he has this weird, creepy little voice,
Yep.
So off the bat, it's like, my reaction is always to these things. It's like, what? Where did this come from? Like, every time I watch one of these videos, I'm going like, who made this and why? I need answers to these questions. Yeah. Interesting one. So what did you think of the first one?
Yeah, I don't know. So, like, I'm gonna hold, cause I have basically one opinion about the whole series.
Okay.
And I'm gonna hold that till the end. But,
okay.
Yeah, one detail I particularly like about Salad Fingers is that his shirt is, like, just one color, and it's a flat color. There's, like, no detailing on it. And there's detail, like, outlines and sort of lines and stuff that make up his face and hands.
Mm-hmm.
But the shirt's just a flat color and shape. It's funny to me.
Oh, I didn't notice that. Interesting detail there.
All right,
well, do you want to go through the second, and then, like, we can kind of discuss after?
So the second episode, it opens with him, and he's like, I'm having a little get-together with my friends. He pulls up his hand and his little, like, finger puppets that have extremely British names.
Yeah.
And he's talking to them, and then he tries to, like, taste them.
Yeah, so gross.
And he does that for a while, and then his fish is finished cooking, and he's like, oh, hey, my fish is finished cooking. I better go get that. And then he's yelling for help as this child walks by.
I know, I couldn't tell if it was a child or another adult. Like,
You're right. It's unclear, but they're more human in appearance than Salad Fingers.
Yeah.
And Salad Fingers is like, help, I can't reach my fish. And this very sinister music's playing this whole time. And it's just like really like, he's like, can you get my fish in the back? And so
like way in the back of the
other
oven.
character does. Yeah, and he reaches in, and then Salad Fingers gets distracted by a like spike jutting out of his wall.
Yeah,
and,
what was that?
Because he wants to rub it and then lets the oven door close on him, and then he accidentally cuts himself and starts bleeding, and that causes him to pass out. And he has a weird dream where he's in a meat locker singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Yeah.
And then one of the puppets, the finger puppets, is there and screams. And then he wakes up and he's like, oh, my fish smells like it's ready. The oven, like the room's full of smoke and stuff. And that's it.
So, it's kind of funny. So, it has a very, like, Hansel and Gretel, like, undertone where he's, like, cooking this person in the oven. But at the end, it doesn't, like, really show you. Like,
oh, yeah.
You're just assuming that the person's in the oven, and that's why all the smoke fills the room.
Yeah, I thought that was
funny because,
a good detail.
Yeah. And he goes, oh, I must have fallen asleep, when it was, like, obvious that he had, like, passed out from losing blood. And then the other detail that was kind of funny was when, wasn't it this one where he pricks his finger?
Yes.
And he's like, I like when the red water runs out, you know?
Yep.
It was, like, very, like, does he understand that that's blood? And, like, why is he so weird about it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's a very naive, weird little dude. Like,
very simplistic, yes. I thought one of the details that was kind of funny was in his dream when he sees the finger puppet is like life size, and he like boops it, like touches it with his finger and is like boop or whatever he did. You know what I mean? Where he just like taps his head, and I'm like, what? It's so strange. Like that little detail, just like so weird.
But yeah, I think that detail you mentioned where it never actually shows the other character in the oven or like the results of being cooked, which is something that's easily could have gone for, you know, had like a last reaction shot of them being cooked like in the oven, but instead it just like ends with it like a shot of the oven itself, which I think is a cool detail.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, my fish must be finished. Like, as if he didn't remember that he, like, basically lured somebody into the oven and shut the door. Like, you know?
It was an accident. He didn't do it on purpose.
Maybe.
No, it was an accident. He got distracted.
Okay, yeah. I don't think that defense would hold up in court, but...
No, but I don't think this world has courts.
Yeah, I don't think so either. There's a little green man with salad fingers, so that's debatable. Yeah.
Alright, and episode 3?
Episode 3, this to me was by far the most disturbing in my opinion.
Oh, yes. So, we start, he's off in a, like, decrepit forest, like, it's, I don't know, the plants look kind of dead, but he's picking nettles, and his hands all, like, rashy, because he's obviously been rubbing nettles, and he's like, I like nettles, I like rubbing them. Then he finds a baby carriage, doesn't know what it is, it's empty, and he takes it, and stores his nettles in it. And then this other character, who's like a butcher without any arms, and I guess the baby carriage belongs to this other character, who gets really angry and starts yelling and follows Salad Fingers home. And Salad Fingers is rubbing his nipple with the nettle, and in the meanwhile,
sitting in the corner,
this butcher character is trying to get in the house and is banging his head against the door.
Yeah, it's gross.
And, like, makes himself pass out or die from banging his head against the door.
Yeah.
You know, he's like bleeding, and then Salad Fingers like, oh, there's someone at the door. He's like, thinks he's still alive, and he's like, you want to come in? Like, just names him for no reason. Also, very British name.
Yeah, it's like something cubicle.
Yeah.
Like
Milford Cubicle.
Milford Cubicle, yeah.
Right, and like drags him in and he's like, here, you can sit down, and he puts him on a hook. And he starts playing the flute. And that's about it.
I felt like this episode needed like a trigger warning for self-harm, because I was like, what is this butcher doing? Banging his head against the door until it's bleeding and he passes out or is dead.
Dies,
We're not
yeah.
sure. Yeah, it's
He was trying to get in.
yeah, but it's like quite disturbing on a couple of levels.
Yes.
For one, like, what is he doing with the nettles? Like,
yeah,
that's a little
like
odd.
a sex joke there.
Oh, is it?
That's
Yeah.
how I read it, certainly.
Yeah, it was it's very odd, and and then the guy with no arms who has a butcher apron on is, you know, coming after it. It's very like, what is this? Like, why? Like, why did he take the baby carriage and put the nettles in it? And, you know, like the whole thing from start to finish is like,
Yes,
what?
very bizarre.
Why?
And very much going for like a
Like, why? What makes you...
macabre, gross tone.
Yes, exactly. And so I'm always going like, this is the perfect instance where I'm like, what prompted you to create this? Like, how did you think of this storyline? Where did it come from? Like, what's going on in your head when you like put something together like this? I'm just like, what? But I did, so have you read any like kind of like fan theories about these?
I know they exist because as the series goes on, it definitely like people try to piece together what exactly is happening
Yes.
and like the world building, because you know it's like basically the entire rest of the series is this just like Salad Fingers has weird adventures. You know, he's a weird little green guy and runs into other weird little things in his creepy, bizarre, desolate world.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's actually like quite an imagination capturing like world painted here in very like broad strokes. So there, I get why people theorize about this. There's a lot to try to like find out what's happening and try to fill in. You know, like it's weird. You want to know what's happening.
Right.
But I just don't like care for that sort of thing.
Well, I read just one, and it was like the theory is that Salad Fingers is a cannibal, and that like that he has like an alter ego, which is like one of his little the like finger puppet that he saw in his dream is actually like the real him, and Salad Fingers is the alter ego, and just like real weird like kind of stuff, and that the nettles that he puts into the baby carriage is actually like a baby, but it's like symbolized as nettles. And so anyway, it's like a whole thing like that he's a cannibal, so he like takes the baby home to eat it, and like, but it's really nettles. It's like a whole thing, and I was just kind of going like, what?
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think that's supported by the text at all.
Yeah, no, it's just like out there and like very random, and but I had to laugh because I was like, I love how people like interpret things differently, and like you took the time to like write about a whole like fan theory on this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a ton of that.
I just thought that was hilarious because it's like, you know, the things that people do with their time is always like funny to me, because I'm like, to me it is like what it is. It's just like a obscure video that like went viral or was trending, you know, online at the time, and probably still is. And just take it at that. But like people really go in depth with this stuff. So I was laughing. And like the war, like there was a war that ravaged, you know, the world that he lives in, and that's why he's green.
There's some more like
but,
war
you know, like
references later on. I think that's why people.
Oh, okay.
Or at least like
Gotcha.
soldier stuff, from what I remember. if I remember correctly.
Because I thought that was, like, far-reaching, but I guess now that you say,
calls
like,
someone a
there's more
lieutenant,
references.
I think.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah. So is this a British thing? Is that why they have,
the
like,
creator's
British names? Okay.
I'm fairly certain.
Okay. I thought that was, funny.
Yes, that's actually probably part of why it caught on. It feels British in a way that, like, an American making fun of British stuff would be.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's very, very interesting. So I really want to know, like, is this guy, like, why does he have salad fingers, first of all? Of all the questions I could ask, like,
Yeah.
that's the one I'm most interested in. What happened to his hands? Is his entire body made out of salad?
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think these are ever adequately explained. He just is, you know?
He just exists, and we shouldn't question it, I guess. But so, tell me what you thought of these episodes.
So, like I said, I have, like, one thought of the whole series, and part of it's, like, I watched it all in one go, and it's like, this is a very, like, tone and atmosphere-based thing, and I think that's what it's most successful at. Something we didn't bring up was the music. There's, like, a piano song that's played that's, like, this is a very atmospheric piano song, and I think it's really good at getting down in and waiting in that sort of bizarre, macabre, like, creepy tone. Like, as a tone piece, it's very good at that.
I agree.
And I think, yeah, like, it's an interesting watch because of that, because it hits that tone so well and so consistently, and you're just always, like, thrown off guard. It's a very off-kilter thing and a very, like, creepy thing.
Yeah.
And that's basically my thought about the whole thing. To the point where, like, these all run together to me, and I'd forgotten a lot about, that I had totally forgotten everything that happened in, episode 3 and how kind of disturbing it was.
That was very disturbing. Like, the first two were like, okay, this is weird. And then, like, the third one comes and you're like, I don't know about this. You know, that was, to me, the third one is where it took a turn where you're like, it kind of gets into this, like, sexual and, like,
graphic,
you know, graphic, weird, like, very odd. I'm going, like, I don't know that I would want to continue watching this, like, after seeing this episode.
I don't remember the rest of them being like that, but it's been a while, and like I said, they all run together to me, so.
Yeah, and I don't know, like, even though it's animated, like, seeing the person or whatever that creature is, the butcher, like, hitting his head against the door, like, that is very disturbing to me. Like, I don't like any kind of violence, like, self-inflicted or not, even if it's animated. Like, it just disturbs me. Like, I'm very sensitive to it for some reason, but I'm just like, like, why'd you do that? I mean, it's one thing to, like, you know, lure something into your oven.
Yeah, well,
crucially,
nothing's shown there.
Right. I think that's the whole thing. It's like, you're wondering, like, well, what happened to the person? But this was so graphic that it was just kind of like, ew. Like, I don't want to watch that, you know? But I think you had a very good point, and it was something we didn't mention, but the atmospheric music, and I think you're absolutely right about the consistency of it and how it adds to the whole, you know, mood of the piece and of the series, I guess. But yeah, that was the only part of it that I was like, ooh, I like how the treatment of that, you know? And I think that's something that I wouldn't have noted previously, but I think you had a good point on that. So, yeah. The content, though? I mean, what do you, like, how do you feel about this? Like...
Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, to me, the whole thing is just the tone, and I think it's an interesting and effective tone piece, and then, like, everything else about it, I don't really care about. Like, I don't know, like, most of the comedy here isn't really my kind of thing. I don't really care for, like, the gross out stuff. Like I said prior, I don't care for the theorizing and all that goes on, so yeah, I don't know.
comparing it to like the kind of humor and disturbing things and Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, it's like a different kind of disturbing,
Yeah.
I don't know, feeling in this one, isn't it?
Well, because Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared does sometimes go for the, like, gross out with the, like,
Yes.
meat stuff, but it's
Yeah.
never this graphic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a different kind of like, ew. And like when he's rubbing the nettles on him and it's like obviously like irritating his weird green skin and stuff, I'm just like, ew, like, no, I don't want to watch that, you know? It's just like, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. So, I think the first episode was probably out of these three. Well, no, I think probably the second episode was better. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the second episode of these three, because I think the, like, punchline, for lack of a better term, of
Yes.
closing the door on that one little guy, and then, like, I think that's, like, I still think it's neat that you know, committing to not showing it,
Yes.
and just having the final shot just be the oven.
Yeah. And how big is that oven that, like, he's like, keep going to the back, you know? Like you're crawling into the oven to get your fish out. Yeah. That's gross. Well, once again, it's broadened my cultural horizons, so...
Yeah,
you
more weird viral internet stuff.
I know, I'm always going like, how does this stuff become viral? I mean, but that's the whole point, right? It's like one of those, like, very odd, like, what the heck is this? That you're like, you gotta look at this, it's so weird.
Yeah, and at least the first one was very quotable. Like I
Yes.
said, the Rusty Spoons thing was, like, all over the place. And it had the British accent, which, again, you know, is very, like, American
It's like a...
impulse. There.
Yes. Like, where do you keep your spoons? Yeah. Definitely quotable and definitely weird. I'm like, why is this little salad fingers guy drawn to Rust? Like, does he have like low iron levels? Like,
No,
you know?
He just likes how it feels.
Oh, I hate how Rust feels. Disgusting.
I can't remember the
I wouldn't
last
say
time I touched
disgusting, but-
Rust, so...
Yeah, it's been a while since I touched Rust, actually, so... Which I guess is good. You don't want to get tetanus or whatever accidentally. Yeah. Oh, fun times. Fun times. Well, so there you go. There's Salad Fingers, episodes 1 through 3.
I don't think we're gonna do any more of it, but...
No! I was gonna say, please don't make me watch any more of those.
If we did, I think we'd just do the whole series in one run.
Yeah.
Because like I said, to me, this is all, like, one thing, so...
I did like that they were short, though. Like, they were, you know, just a few minutes long. So, I mean, that was good. You get through, you know, you see, like, a storyline within 3 minutes, and I like that part of it, so.
Yep.
You know, at least when you're disturbed, you don't have to be disturbed for too long. I guess.
So, you want to get into our next topic?
Sure.
All right.
What you got for me?
So, another one of these. We couldn't really come up with anything, so I'm going to talk about number systems.
Yeah, I'm very intrigued by this, because I was like, I don't really know what you mean by that.
Okay, so, you know what, like, decimal and binary are, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so like that, like, you know, you can, have different number, like, systems of counting and doing number stuff, and it's based on, like, so decimal is base 10, so you have 10 numbers, you go through 0 to 9, and then once you hit the 9, you, add another, oh god, I'm forgetting what that's called. Digit, though, so you go up, you know, you, reset your 1s to 0, and then you go to your 10s, and then you count up till you hit 9 again, and then you know, add the 2, so you're at 20, and keep going. And it's basically like that for any base. So if you did base 4, you'd have 0 through 3, and then you'd get up to 3, and then you'd go up to 10, you know, 1, 0, and then you keep doing that until you hit a point where you've run out of numbers, and then go up again.
Okay.
And yeah. So the one we use is decimal.
What do you mean, like, we use? Like, just
That's the number
in
system
general?
we use.
Okay,
We have
okay.
10 digits before, 10 numbers before you go up
Yeah.
to the next one.
Okay.
Another popular one, binary, obviously.
Obviously.
Well, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what binary is, right?
Well, what do you mean, like, it's another popular one? Like,
It's like,
and what, like...
there's 3 that see any sort of common usage,
Oh.
as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
This was different historically. Different cultures have used different number systems, and then
Okay.
10 became the standard, and I don't know the full history, but yeah.
Okay.
But binary is used in computers because of electricity. It's not you.
I don't understand that, though. Like, how, I don't know, it's just beyond my understanding is how does that work
So
in computers?
1 is on, 0 is off, so you get the electricity, and then you route that, do a lot of complicated stuff with your mechanical parts that route electricity, and then you make little logic gates, like an AND gate or an OR gate, which is so basically if this and this, then this sort of thing. I don't fully understand it, but that's the basics.
I got you. Okay.
And then that's represented in numbers, and again, you use binary because you have on or off in electricity.
Yes, and I always have to remind myself, I have this, it's like a mug warmer, and it has a little switch, and it's a 0 and a 1, and it's really like a circle in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
And I always have to remember 0 is off. I don't know why. Every time I look at it, I have to remind myself which one is which. Why is that so difficult? I have no idea. It's the simplest thing ever, but it's just confusing to me because it's not on off, and I always have to look at it and say, okay, this is on, this is off.
Mm-hmm.
Makes no sense. Anyway. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
The
numbers with binary.
Next most common one would be hexadecimal.
What the heck is that?
16 hexadec, 610. And the reason that's used is because for computing, it's in binary, it's easier to convert binary into hexadecimal than it is decimal, and binary gets really long if you're representing large numbers because you only have 2 symbols to use, so you convert it into that for usage in for stuff humans need to look at. So it's more readable. And the symbols you use after you hit 9 is the first 6 letters of the alphabet, so A, B, C, D, E, and F.
Yeah. I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, it's just used in computing.
Oh.
Yeah, for human read stuff, again, because it's easier to convert. Because 16's a power of 2.
You are losing me on this one.
Okay, so if 2 to the...
yeah.
Or...
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's much easier to convert than 10.
Oh, okay. So this is only used, that numbering system is only used in computing? Is it used anywhere else?
I mean, I assume, but I don't, know off the top of my head.
I just, I don't really come across that much.
Fluid ounces and that's in 16s, or is that in 4s?
Oh, yeah. No, that's in 16s.
Well, because then it goes up to pints and quarts, and aren't those usually by 4s?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Yeah. 16 ounces is in a pound.
Yeah, okay. And maybe then.
It's weight, yeah.
Right, and there's been, various other systems that different cultures have used. Like duodecimal, which is base 12.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Cultures have used that over the years. apparently several have used base 20. I don't know, like, specifics, but that's...
How do they do that?
you have 20 symbols instead of just 10.
I mean, I get that, but like, I don't understand how it works.
So when you're counting, you go up 1, 2, 3 until you get to 9.
Yeah.
And then you go to 10,
right.
which is 1, 0. So you go over a place.
Right.
Then you have to, like, add. So it would be 0, 1, 0, 2, 0, 9. And then once you run out of numbers, you go up a number. So instead, like, base 20,
right.
you would go through the next 10 symbols after that. And then you would go up to double digits.
So instead of like, when you reach the 9, starting over, you go to 20, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah. Well, it's actually 10 because of the 0, but...
Oh, I got you.
That's why it's base
that's
10.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, you start at 0. So it would be,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, the only thing that I know about decimals and that kind of stuff that I found interesting was that, like, in Europe, how they use the comma in place of decimal and the decimal in place of the comma.
Yeah.
I always thought that was kind of... But it's the same numbering system, right? Just the symbol's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something you might notice that has not a base 10, except it kind of has a base 10, is time, which is like a base 60, I think.
Yeah.
Something weird like that. But you know how instead of going, if you're counting, you go to like 99 and then 100, but
yes.
Like, and then it flips over to another number. But with the clock, it goes to 59 and then rolls over.
Right.
It might be 12. I don't know. It's been a while since I've read about this. It's like 12 or 60 or something like that.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
24 hours in a day.
Yeah.
60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour.
Right.
And then 365 days, which is gone up from 360 because we found out later on that, there's not actually 360 days by how we count them. There's more.
Yeah.
Which is, I believe, Sumerian. The Sumerian number system was like base 60 or 12 or something.
Sure.
And that just stuck around. They were the first ones to come up with, like, clocks and then stick around. And so it's just stuck with that.
You got me. I'll believe anything you tell me. Yeah, Sumerians. Exactly.
I mean, it's been a while since I've read about this stuff, so I'm pretty sure
would you say it's been a minute? Huh?
Boo.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Dad joke there.
Yeah, that's, yeah, you'd think at some point, since we use a base 10 system, someone would have come up with a system for counting time that was base 10 and stuck. Well, I mean, it is base 10 because we don't have, like, 60 characters, but it's this weird, like, base 10, base 60 thing.
Yeah,
that I don't fully understand.
it's very odd. I thought it just had to do with, like, the way, like, the Earth revolves and the time. I don't know.
No, because you can make any number line up with that.
That's true. Yeah.
You would just change the relative values of how long, say, a second is.
Right. Yeah.
Which, tangentially related to that, do you know why a week is 7 days?
A week is 7 days. No, I don't.
So it is 1/4 of a full moon cycle.
Oh, I knew that.
Which is about 28 days. Yes.
Yeah, I did know that. Yes. I forgot.
Which is semi-related to this, but
yeah,
that does not go by base 60 or 12 or whatever.
That's its own thing. Yeah. So how did we come up with the months on that note?
I mean,
like how many days each month has?
What if you divide 360 into 12, right? You get 30.
Yeah, but like how...
I don't know the full history of calendars, that like at some point you get the 31s, and because I think at some point someone realized that like, oh hey, it's not actually, like based on how we're counting it, it's not actually 360, it's more than that.
Yeah.
So we have to start, like, adding days to random months.
Right.
Although, wasn't it, like, 10 months? Old calendars? Like, before the Julian calendar?
I think so.
So,
but I don't know why. Like, I don't know why it
Which
changed.
would be 36 per... Or 36.5, I don't know the history.
Yeah. I'm always like, who makes this stuff up?
People.
And we just stick with it,
Mathematicians,
you know?
astronomers.
Yeah, but I'm like, we all just like, we're like, yeah, okay, we'll stick with it for like years and years and years and years.
Useful to have a way to measure time.
Is it though? Is it?
Yes, it is.
I like to live in the moment, you know?
I mean, seeing as how much, like, we do dates, like,
yes.
I am, like, at any moment, staring at the date and time, you know, you look at your phone.
Yeah, like, I live by my calendar, yes. Like, for forgetful people like me, I always have to be like, okay, what's today? What's the date? Yeah.
And it's very useful to assign numbers to that.
Yeah.
You know? To divide it into portions and to, like, divide years up and stuff like that.
Yeah, I can see how that's useful.
So now we've moved into from...
So what other number systems are
number
there?
Number systems into dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I normally know a little bit about this. I know some people, I guess you'd call them weirdos, advocate for duodecimal over decimal, so base 12 over base 10.
I really feel like these people have a lot of time on their hands.
Or they're just mathematicians who are
interested
in mathematics.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, that's the logical explanation. So going, I never think about this stuff, like, ever. It doesn't cross my mind.
One of the main arguments for that, at least as far as I'm aware, they probably have more, is that, so if you're doing thirds, base 10 doesn't really work well with that. You know, you hit a repeating decimal point.
Yeah.
And base 12 works very well with thirds, in addition to working well with halves. And the reason why you'd want that over, say, base 6 is because bigger ones are better for writing out longer numbers.
Oh.
Because the shorter, you know, like binary numbers get really big really fast.
Yeah.
Because you don't have a lot of characters to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Although, one of the main arguments against it is that you have 10 fingers, so it's harder to teach duodecimal to kids.
True.
Also inertia. We already do base 10, and it would be really, really difficult to get everybody to change.
Yeah. I agree.
But some people do advocate for and prefer base 12 from a mathematical perspective.
What do you prefer?
Base 10, because that's what I know. Like, I can't do mental addition in any other counting system.
Yeah.
Which isn't, like, that difficult to learn. It's just not something I have learned. So I haven't bothered learning.
Yeah.
Because it's not useful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'd be I was going to say, I don't think it'd be particularly useful to learn, so...
I mean, binary in some cases, but, like, meh.
I don't understand binary. I really just don't.
Okay, so you go 0.
I guess I've never, like, read about it.
Then you go 1.
Yeah.
And then you go 10.
Yeah.
And then you go 11. And then you go 100. Then you go 101. And you go 110. And then you go 111.
But what do all... but what do all those, like, mean? Like,
counting.
What do you use them for?
You're just counting.
No, but, like, on computer, like, you know...
Okay, yes. I'm being deliberately obtuse.
Oh, I thought you, like, weren't understanding what I was talking about. No, like, on computers, like, you know how you'll see, like, I don't know, I always just picture, like, a screen when, like, something's going wrong with the computer and it's, like, 0, 1, 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, you know, like, all these different, you know, zeros and ones. And, like, what does that mean? Like, how do you read that? How do computers read that?
So
I don't
forget what, I forget what this was called. But at some point when doing computing, they started representing letters and other characters with particular binary numbers. So that's usually what that is.
So it's a string. There's a string of just zeros and ones, and that means something to somebody?
Yes, because a long time ago, people got together and decided, okay, this binary number is going to represent this letter or this symbol.
Oh, goodness. Whoa. That's rough.
But yeah, again, because computers need to work with electricity, which is on or off, which actually, there are computers called quantum computers that are theoretical at this point, but could possibly exist in the future, which can do more than just zeros and ones because of quantum mechanics.
Oh. Look out.
So that's a thing.
That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I guess in some circles.
Yeah, well, I mean, the benefit for that would be you can encode much more data in, like, a smaller package and be more efficient and, like, faster. It'd basically get you better computers.
Yeah. Who doesn't want that? So you were just thinking of this, like, just, during the day, you're just
Well,
like,
I was in the shower. That's very much a shower thought sort of thing.
Yeah. Next time I take a shower, I'm gonna start thinking about that.
Yeah, no, it's
my very limited knowledge.
It was something I learned in high school, just like from the internet, and I was like, oh, hey, I didn't know this was a thing you could do, so, I read a bit about it, and...
Oh, I thought you were gonna say, like, you learned in school, and I was like, okay,
well,
I must have gone to a subpar school, because I did not remember reading about this.
I think.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult.
Not to me, but...
like, really, it's just, you use it, like, you count, it's just counting at its base level, and you just count using different symbols, and they roll over, at a different point.
Right, decimal. It's just a different way of doing it, yeah. Yeah, I just, like, I guess, I've never used a different system for anything. I mean, well, I can't say that, like you were saying, like, measurements and stuff are different than...
Not if you're using metric.
Yeah, that's true.
And not, like, whatever feet and yards and miles have going on.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. So, I don't know. I just never really, thought about... Like, I never... Like, binary was one of those things that, like... It was always, like, I knew about it, but I've never, ever, ever had to use it and don't ever come into, contact with it. So it's just something I never think about,
Yeah.
So is that something, but do you ever use, like, binary? I know you do, like, computer stuff. Like, do you ever have to use that? Do you know how?
I mean, like, not really. That's really, like, base level computer stuff. Like, if you're dealing with, like, really low level stuff.
Okay.
And not, like, software level stuff, which is, like, the top end. Which, like, if you're making a website or something, for example, you probably aren't going to need to mess with binary. Or hexadecimal, for that matter. Might in some cases, but...
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that I don't have to mess with all that, because it sounds confusing, but I know you said it's basic stuff.
Well,
just stuff that
at the base level,
every
then,
day,
like, if you're talking about computers, you go into a whole complicated computer stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, way above my pay grade, that's for sure.
Yeah, so do you have any more thoughts about number systems or counting, or I guess time and calendars and whatnot?
Just that, like, my sense of curiosity in that is more like who was the first, like, mathematician or whoever that came up with this, and, like, how did they, like, get everybody to agree? I know all of this was, like, years and years and years ago. Like, how do they get everybody to agree to this, like, and move forward? That's what I always think of, is, like, who's the first person?
I mean...
Or group of people who were like,
yeah, I was gonna say,
it
likely wasn't, like, one person. It was likely groups of people working together and iterating on stuff.
And then how do they just, like, explain it in a way that it makes sense to everybody else, and so everybody jumps on board and does this, and then that's what we do forever and ever until something else comes along.
Useful,
you know what I mean?
I
like,
guess.
That's, I guess, my curiosity.
I mean, humans can count things, and then as a result, we start doing more things with that. Although if you really want to get into some weird philosophy territory, is math something that's natural and humans discovered, or something that humans created?
Right, exactly. Like that to me is the interesting part of the topic is like, who made this stuff up? Or, you know what I mean? Like, that's one of those things that's like, ooh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I like that kind of part.
I guess
Yeah.
that's our podcast. I'll take us out if you don't have anything else.
Yeah, thank you. That's all I got.
Well,
thank
this has
you.
been our podcast, Beachview. We hope you enjoyed it. And our weird digressions into viral YouTube videos and numbers.
Yeah, always a pleasure. Join us next time.
Bye.
Bye.